Hello, good people, and welcome to Reasons to Talk, presented by Reasons to Win. Check out reasons2win.com. Why not? And Central Triad Church. Check out centraltriadchurch.com. Why not? Where we transform lives,
produce believers,
and impact the world.
Ball. Too loud? Oh,
I
Lord.
told you you're loud. You should pull the microphone back from a little bit.
How about now?
That's way better.
Yeah.
I can turn it down later.
Too much energy.
I was introducing your mother.
That's very exciting.
He's taking a shot at you. You see that? I'm not cutting none of this out. I want you to remember this moment.
I want you to remember this.
Can you see yourself with this big old...
Okay, why are you always hating on my cup? What is wrong with you?
It's weird.
It's a cup. I have to stay hydrated.
Anyway, thank y'all for joining us. Go and hit that subscribe button. Go and hit that like, bless that like button, and comment. You know, leave us some comments on this subject matter. This is a weird one, but it's something that we talked about, I guess. Yes. And we're going to have Miss Allison take it away. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about this article that came out recent.
Not recently.
This article that came out, this situation.
The reason why it was a TikTok that I saw, and this lady basically said if the husband had to choose between me and the unborn child, choose me. We can make another baby, something like that.
Right.
And there was a lot of comments down there.
It's a very controversial issue.
Yes.
It's been controversial
Yes.
forever. I don't think the controversy is ever going to go away on this particular issue.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But it's something to talk about.
Yeah, very something to talk about. And usually I don't do stuff. I made a little comment, but I comment on a comment, not on the video, because that's a screen. But I always tell them your wife is always first, because the guy put your wife on the back burner and you're about your kids. Right. But if you do not, I know we're not talking about this. I just want to make sure people know, because we're going to talk about this later.
Yes.
If you do not put your wife or husband first, you're not putting your kids first. It's going to be unhealthy, especially when the kids leave. About y'all too, the divorce rate goes up when the kids leave, because you don't want to know each other anymore. We change. We constantly change. And we just put straight. Now, I ain't saying don't care about the kids, but you need to be taking care of your wife. That husband should be taking care of his wife. Wife should be taking care of their husband first. And the kids should know that that's healthy. And that would help them be healthy in their relationships too. But anyway, let's go to this article.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to read the article real quick. When Frederick Connie's wife went into labor a month early, medical complications left him with a choice he never thought he'd have to make. Should he choose to save the life of his wife or his baby? While at home, Connie's wife, Kivan,
His wife,
began hemorrhaging. Once she was rushed to the hospital, doctors told him to choose when his wife has surgery. It was either give her the surgery first and maybe save her life, but you're going to lose your daughter, or your daughter can be saved, but there's a chance you might lose your wife. Frederick said he chose the baby because he knew his wife would never forgive him if he had chosen otherwise.
That's tough. And I think when you and Candace was talking, that you said that people don't talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. Me and Candace, did we ever talk about it?
No, well, I mean, we talked about it when I was pregnant.
Like,
briefly.
Who would you pick?
Yeah. Who would you pick? We talked about it briefly because, yeah. But, yeah, I think it's important to talk about, especially if you plan on having kids one day. You definitely want to have this discussion because anything could happen. And
apparently how he worded that, they did not talk about it.
Exactly.
He said he knew.
Sounds to me like they didn't actually have that conversation.
Right.
And it was a surprise. It was just all of a sudden she started hemorrhaging. It wasn't like there was a medical condition already.
Right.
And these things happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you never know what's going to happen.
Right. You can't plan for everything.
Yeah, you got a second, go ahead and make a comments. What would you do? Just tell us. We like to read it. We do read the comments. Just say, hey, what would you do in that situation when you pick the child or the mother?
Right.
And there are different situations I read where the mother's unconscious and he has to make the decision. what do you do?
What do you do?
Since me and you really never sit there and really talked about it, I would think to pick you. I know that lady, she was trying to be funny. She said, we can have another kid, but I would pick my wife. And I know I was joking with Zion earlier, and I said, well, we know the baby going to have. I don't know about your mom. I'm just joking. I'm going to smack the baby in the head.
The baby's under here, y'all.
Yeah, the baby's under here. But I would pick my wife. And the reasons, I had to think about it. Like, wow, I would
Why
pick
would you
my
make
wife.
that choice?
Why? You ask me now?
Well,
First of all, let's go around. All right, who you pick? It's like, okay, another situation where you had to pick your husband or your...
Well, no, I mean, leave it at
Well,
that
yeah,
situation.
I
It's
mean-
her. It's
Oh,
her
yeah,
life
yeah,
for the
right.
baby.
What should I do?
What does
What
she
should I
want?
do?
Right.
I mean, I would want you to pick me because, one, we have other kids, and I want to see them grow up. And, if God wants us to have another kid, we'll have another kid, or we can always adopt, or whatever the case is. I mean, it may not be torn up if something were to happen to the baby, but, I mean, I'd still want to be around to help you with the kids and see them grow up and,
I think some people have problem with guilt.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but there's always therapy that we could go to help with that. I'm just saying, like,
I agree.
I would ask,
Feel guilty.
How about you?
yeah, I would just go to therapy and talk to a therapist about the loss of a child.
How about you?
It's tough.
I think it would be really tough. I would probably say if I was having the discussion with somebody beforehand, I'd probably say most likely I'd want you to choose me over the unborn child. However,
It doesn't mean we don't think the child don't have life.
Right.
We do.
No.
The
Children,
baby,
yeah, absolutely. But it's really, really hard. I mean, when you're in these situations, because I've been, I don't know if you guys have been, but I've been in some high pressure medical situations before. And it's really, really tough. You've got the doctors on one side saying all this stuff, and a lot of times they're telling you a lot of negative stuff, and they're kind of
Oh yeah,
more
tell me about your
leaning
situation.
on the negative stuff. Yeah, because my first child, my first pregnancy, about halfway through the pregnancy, my water broke. Everything was fine. I had been getting prenatal treatment and everything was fine, but my water broke just for no reason. It just happened.
Yeah.
So I ended up in the hospital. Of course, I went to the hospital, and they had me in the hospital I was there 10 or 11 days in bed, on bed rest, strict bed rest, because they, wanted the baby wasn't viable, right? I mean, at 20 weeks,
Yeah.
and this is, of course, a long time ago, more than 20 years ago. But at 20 weeks, the chances of survival are almost none. I mean, it's much better now, but back then it was like, So, of course, it was like, well, they had asked me when I got there if I wanted to deliver the baby first, when I first got there. Like, well, if labor starts, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, I want you to stop it. Like,
Yeah. Want the baby to cook a little longer.
the baby's not ready to come out.
Be cooked.
So that was okay, and then it ended up happening where I didn't actually go into labor, so they got me out of the labor and delivery ward and onto the maternity ward, and I was in bed there for, like I said, 10 or 11 days, and they kept checking my my white blood count.
Oh, okay.
Because they're saying the biggest complication at this point, if you don't go into labor prematurely because of this, then the other thing that we have to worry about is an infection. Most likely an infection will set in because the membranes have ruptured and, things can happen, right? So they kept on taking my blood 2-3 times a day. They were taking my blood, checking for stuff. And after the 10 or 11 days, my blood count was going steadily up. And finally on that 11th day, they had that conversation with me and they were like, we're concerned. We've had you on antibiotics. They had me on antibiotics already. We've had you on antibiotics, but your white blood cells count's still going up. This could be very dangerous. This is, blood infection. This isn't just,
Right.
like a wound somewhere
That's
or
gonna affect your
something.
whole body.
It affects your whole body, blah, blah, blah. And so they were really trying to pressure me into allowing them to induce labor to deliver the baby. Because obviously if they deliver the baby, this is going to, my immune system will correct the infection. And I was adamant, you're not going to do that. You will not do that. I didn't have anybody with me. I was on my own. And I just knew, I was like, no, that's not what's going to happen here.
What was the risk? What they say the risk was if you didn't?
If I didn't, what?
Induce labor.
Oh, if they didn't induce later and I stayed pregnant, the infection would continue to grow. And
how about the baby?
Well, no, the baby was fine. Okay. There was no risk to the baby at all. It was my life who was at risk. The baby was perfectly fine up in there, which is why I said, no, you won't leave that alone. Right. So I adamantly refused. They were not happy with me. And then within probably a day of that 10 or 12 hours, I actually did go into labor. Mm-hmm. And at that point, they were like, well, what do you want us to do? Mm-hmm. We could try to stop it. We can whatever. Because my thing was, God's going to make this happen. Right. I'm not going to make this choice. Mm-hmm. He knows all. I said, he wrote the story before I even knew anything. Like, he knows what this is going to happen. I'm not going to intervene in what God wants to do. I am going to trust that God is going to do what God wants to do. Right. You gotta recognize it. And that's what I was trying to explain to them. Right. That's what I explained to them. I'm not going to get in the way of God. Mm-hmm. God's going to do it. So when I went into labor on my own, my body did that naturally. I said, okay, we're going to go through with this. And it was a very hairy, scary, horrible situation. And I can tell you, we can have another show about medical nightmares, and that'll be in there. But it was rough. And those medical professionals were not happy with me at all for making that decision. But it is what it is. So what I would say back to this other question is, I want to live. I do have other children. I would not want to, rob them of being a mother. Regardless of what age they are, whether they're little or whether they're even grown, right? Like, I would want them to know me, and I want their kids to know me and all that kind of stuff, right? So I would still want to be here, but it's got to be a case-by-case thing. Yeah. Case-by-case, mean, if God is telling you to hold off, then trust God. Trust God, because he still performs miracles. Yeah.
I read some of them, and some of them is that the different risks. So one risk is that 99% of this child going to pass if you do it this way to save the mom. Right. Or you try to save the mom and the baby, which there's a chance the mom would pass. Right. And I get that too. And that's and it's tough when your wife is unconscious.
Oh, when you're the only one having to make that decision.
I feel bad for people that have to do that. Yeah. And that's why you should have those conversations. Yeah.
Gotta have that conversation before.
Well, we're done. So,
we're done.
When we had this conversation, we never really had the conversation. Yeah. But we should have this conversation. But that's something that, because we had a scare with Izzy. We did. Because we was having a natural birth, and then all of a sudden, if they know you're going to have a C-section, they prepare you for it. They prep you. It's stuff that you got to take. Right. And
it was a whole thing. Because we had a scheduled one with Ivy, and it was like, you knew what was going to happen, what to do, the next steps. It was really smooth. Right. It was great. But Izzy, on the other hand,
Izzy,
she pretty much, when it was going to my routine checkups and everything was looking great. And then
they were looking great.
Yeah, they said it was looking great. I went to one like the day before. It was seeing me like all the time at this point, it felt like. So I went the day before. They said, oh, everything's fine. Just go back home, rest, blah, blah, blah. Went to the next day. They were like, we're going to do a stress test. Or, and I was like, all right. And they're listening like, oh, you need to go to the hospital right now. I was like, but what? I was fine. Yes. What do you mean? What's wrong with the baby? You need to go to the hospital right now. You got your backpack? I was like, I got to go home and get it. And they're like,
and they didn't tell us what was going on until we got to the hospital.
Right. So I'm over here like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And so we get to the hospital and they hook me up to the machines and whatnot. And the nurses kept coming in like every 2 minutes. I mean, it wasn't even like a second to breathe. Like I couldn't even have a regular conversation.
I think you like, did I answer?
One of us asked and said, is something wrong? And then she was like, you're probably gonna have a C-section. And I was like, what?
There was no,
they
no
said
fluid.
There was no fluid around the baby.
Her water broke.
And it was stressing the baby out.
No.
But the day before we went to the doctor, they said everything was fine. Yeah. They told us how big the baby was.
Said the baby was going to be like 8 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. How
she was under birth.
Yeah, she was under birth weight. She was 4 pounds.
She had to stay for a week.
6 ounces or something.
See, that right there, let me just point this out to everybody out here. This is why I don't put a lot of I don't want to say I don't believe the doctors, but they can be wrong. They can be wrong. Mm-hmm. You never. I mean, they're doing the best they can, but they're not God.
I'm gonna be honest. I was upset because they didn't tell us what was going on because they know they made a mistake.
Right.
They could at least said, "Hey, we made a mistake." But I was beyond. I couldn't do anger right now because I'm on my standpoint. They're gonna cut my wife open,
Right.
And I didn't. Usually, I go on YouTube, say, "Oh, what happened?" I don't know anything.
They are literally willing me to the C-section area while they're explaining to me what's going to happen, and I'm like, I was not prepped for this. I have no idea what's happening right now. Like, are you sure this is the best route? And they're like, you don't really have another option. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Like, so then that made me feel like I didn't even get like the opportunity to see if labor would be induced. But I mean, I get it, but
Right. And I was okay till they sit. I had to get all this stuff on and stuff like that. And I was okay sitting down. No, I was okay till I had to sit down and wait outside the room when they took her in there. I said, I'm not beside my wife. Oh, they gonna cut her now, or what's going on? That's when I'm gonna tell you the enemy crept in. I thought of every possible scenario with my family, and I don't really do that, but it was very humbling because I had to go to God like, hey, God, take this away. We're fine, right? He's like, yeah. And then I said, I'm okay. We're not, because we're still going to find, because it's your plan. I had to have that conversation. I cried while I was out there. Yeah. Just sitting there waiting. It probably wasn't that long, but it felt like
was it just, did they let you in when they were actually doing the surgery? Right. So it was just while they were getting her breath. Right. And were you conscious? Did they have to knock you out?
No, I was conscious.
They were able to get a block in you?
Yeah.
She was very strong. I was very proud of her. Because she calmed me when I went in. Because I was thinking in my head, like, how about if something happened, they got to cut open now, I'm not there.
Yeah.
And then when she goes in, I hate thinking like that. I was like, this is the last time I saw my wife. I watched so many movies too. Right. All this stuff. So that's why I had to have that conversation.
But that's also the enemy attacking at that weak place, because that's what he does.
Absolutely.
We have our little weaknesses, and he'll just say, "Ooh, I found one." Get a hook in there.
Yeah, and I'll be living in fear for the rest of my life. Yeah. That's why I had to have that conversation with God. But that was rough, and I went through that scenario. Like, what if I had to pick? I did that. I did all that, but that's when I said pick. That's when I went to God. Kind of stop all that. I was like, man, that's crazy. Right. And I started thinking of the movie Good Son. You seen that?
No, actually, I didn't see that one.
She had both her kids, and she had to pick one. She couldn't hold on to both, and she had to let one go.
That's crazy.
Well, her son and her nephew, but her son was crazy. But anyway, Good Son. That was a good movie. Anyway, so, but had these conversations. Yeah. Had these conversations. They and not just this conversation. Everything. You have a will.
Yeah,
write a will out.
Yeah, and a living. What is it? A durable power of attorney, and a living will, and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is important because you never know when something is going to happen, and even if you're not married, you need to have designated somebody to be, your healthcare provider, because the medical staff in the hospitals, they won't let just because somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I'm her sister." Right. Even if you can prove that, they still are not really going to allow that person to call the shots and make decisions. They're going to make the decisions for you, the hospital or the doctors and stuff will. So everybody should have that, for sure.
Insurance, you don't have insurance from kids. I just want to tell you, get insurance, with everything, yourself and everything like that. So, yeah.
That's tough though. That's a tough place to be in. And whatever happened with this guy?
Yeah. What happened? Did his wife make it?
No, she did not. They had a big discussion on Facebook. It was a lot.
He lost both of them.
Oh, losing both? Oh, Lord. Because I know the baby was uncritical. That's sad.
I think they said it's saying that he lost both of them. Goodness gracious. Well, then I guess that means
yeah.
You don't
know.
What do you do?
Yeah.
But
he got to live with that, I just know, had a discussion. I know I picked my wife, and, healing, take two to heal is, But I understand some people, wife will be upset.
Yeah, they will. I mean, there are women who feel really, really strongly that the child needs to come first. And this is why this is something that should be pre-discussed, because
Go and tell your husband that's how you feel.
Yeah.
this is absolutely
Y'all can be totally
nothing
different.
wrong. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with feeling that way at all. It's just, personal preference, and, you need to have a conversation with God.
Yeah, make a comment. Once again, make a comment.
Yeah.
Or what you will do. If you have any questions about this.
Also check in with each other, not frequently, but every so often, because minds change. Our feelings change. Our thoughts change. We grow, we change, we learn different things, we have different experiences, and the next thing you know, whatever. So what your wife said a year ago or 5 years ago may not be how she feels now.
Right. This is true.
Same with the husband.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
Always check in.
Yeah. Thank y'all for joining us today. There's reason to talk about this matter. This ain't so happy, but it's actually, I'm kind of sad for that person now. I didn't know both of them passed away. And sad. And thank y'all for joining us. Once again, thank you, Allison, for joining us, and my lovely wife. And Ivy down there. I just scared her. But thank you all. Hit that subscribe button, bless that like button, whatever it is on Facebook, YouTube. Check out TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Go ahead. And reasontowin.com. We actually have a business together. Check that out. And check out CentralTriadChurch.com. Download that Central Triad Church app. You have not. CTTV is coming. Yes. Awesome.